Hello and welcome. Let's look at this example. So we're going to look at different types of transformation. So we're going to start with our basic x squared graph again. But now we're adding and subtracting numbers directly from the x, like inside the parentheses. So we're going to look at graphs of the type parentheses x minus h squared. Right, so let's start by making our original graph. So y equals x squared. So 0, 1, 2, negative 1, negative 2. We have 0 squared is 0, 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, negative 1 squared is 1, and negative 2 squared is 4. So we're going to graph this. Alright, this is called the square graph. Alright, let's make a better job here. 2 and 4, negative 2 and 4, 3 and 9, negative 3 and 9. Okay. Alright, there's my two sides of the parabola right here. So that's the basic parabola x squared. Okay. Now let's see what happens if I graph y equals x minus 1 squared. Alright, let's start with x is 0. So if I plug in x is 0 in here, I get 0 minus 1 squared, which is negative 1 squared, which is 1. Right? So when I plug x is 0, I'm actually squaring negative 1. And I get this one right here. Okay? Alright. Let's see what happens when I plug in 1. So I get 1 minus 1 squared. I get 0 squared, which is 0. Okay, so when I plug in 1, I'm actually squaring 0, which is this one. Right? So it looks like the graph is shifted. It's sort of, the x values are shifted. Okay, let's do 2. So 2 minus 1 squared, I get 1 squared, which is 1. Okay, so this one corresponds with this one now. It's kind of like we're shifting the values of the same values of y, but in a different place, in the wrong place. Okay, let's do negative 1. So I get negative 1 minus 1 squared. Negative 2 squared equals 4. And so that's that value. Okay, so instead of going to negative 2, because the values are going to get too big, I'm going to add more on this side. So I'm going to have 3. 3 minus 1 squared is 2 squared, which is 4. Okay, so that corresponds to this one. Okay, so it looks like the x value shifted by 1. They got bigger. Okay, so if we graph them, I get negative 1 and 4. I get 0 and 1. 1 and 0. 2 and 1. And 3 and 4. Okay, so it looks like the same graph, but it looks like it's moved to the right 1 unit. Okay, so all the points move to the right 1 unit. So this is parentheses x minus 1 squared. All right, let's look at the next one, x plus 1 squared. That's the y value. Okay. So I'm going to plug in 0. We get 0 plus 1 squared, which is 1 squared. Right, so this one corresponds to this one now. Right, if I plug in 1, I get 1 plus 1 squared, which is 2 squared, which is 4. Okay, so I already got to 4. Alright, so that's kind of the end of this. I'm going to pick smaller values now. Negative 1 plus 1 squared is 0 squared, which is 0. Negative 2. Negative 2 plus 1 squared is negative 1 squared, which is 1. And I'm going to go to negative 3. Negative 3 plus 1 squared is negative 2 squared, which is 4. So we're getting the same y values, but the x value was shifted to the left. Okay? We have negative 3 and 4. We have have negative 2 and 1. We have negative 1, 0. We have 0, 1. And we have 1, 4. Okay, so we're going to draw our parabola. And it looks the same as the original, but it was shifted to the left by 1 unit. So this is x plus 1 squared. Alright, so to summarize, graphs of this type right here, if I have x minus h squared, then this moves to the right h units. And if I have x plus h squared, this moves to the left h units. Okay? So inside the parentheses, if you're subtracting or adding, is going to move it left and right. Okay?